Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Johnny's Ambassadors Expert Webinar Series for Teens. We have another incredible youth speaker with us today, whom I will introduce in just a moment. This session is being recorded. We are going to go for about 45 minutes with Cara, and then we're going to do about 15 minutes of Q&A, which means you get to ask her your questions live, and she will be giving you some contact information. If you're watching this in a video, you can ask your questions via email afterward. So there is a question box. Please type questions as you think of them, and I will read them off to Cara at the very end when we're done. Okay, so without any further ado, Cara Filler is driven to inspire. For the past 25 years, she has shared her powerful, positive leadership and traffic safety programs with more than 2 million students in 5 countries. Drawing from an immense personal tragedy in her own life, Cara's inspiring presentations focus on dealing with peer pressure, traffic safety, and being unique. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm welcome to Cara. Thank you for being one of Johnny's ambassadors.
Oh my gosh, it is such a pleasure, Laura, to be with you. And plus, I want that introduction to be at every school assembly and every virtual presentation I do from now on. So enthusiastic, and it makes me just so giddy to be here with all of you. I wish it was in person. I know we're still dealing in uncertain and challenging times, but I'm happy that you've tuned in either live or in a recording sometime in the future to hear a personal story and why I choose to be Johnny's ambassador, and also to work with amazing people like Laura and her team of ambassadors to promote safe choices, healthy relationships, prevention messaging, but really honestly to take ownership of the choices we make in our everyday lives and make them mean something positive. I was telling Laura before the webinar started how it's something we should not have in common. We should not have met in a way that made it this webinar possible, in a way that we have both lost someone we so deeply care about. And I'm going to share that story with all of you tonight in a way that is hopefully resourceful and empowering. I have the privilege to speak in schools in person in the last couple of years, virtually as well, all over the world. This is not, however, what I was going to do with my life. This wasn't my big plan when I was in high school. My big plan, I'm going to take these off because you can see my little light. My big plan in high school was I was going to graduate high school, was going to go off to college, and I was going to become a marine biologist. I basically wanted to save the beluga whales of the world because my favorite song when I was a little girl was a song called Baby Beluga by Raffi. I'm not now, nor will I ever be a marine biologist. What I would like to do in the world I've created since our loss is talk about some of the choices I made growing up, embarrass myself tremendously because I tend to do that really well, give you all some choices that you can make in your everyday lives that can keep you safe and keep the people that you love safe, and walk away in hopes that the time that we share today is of value. That's what this is all about. That's what this webinar series of experts is all about, that you find nuggets of information that is relevant or memorable or potentially life-changing or saving, and you implement those in your everyday life, not the 10 years from now life that we hope that you'll create and thrive in, but the everyday choices and how you can make them matter for yourselves and for others. So I'm going to start this presentation virtually, even though I would love to do it in person, the same way I always do, because I'm just honestly not a very creative person and I can't think anything better to do. So I'm going to ask you, who are the watchers, to close your eyes, which seems a little weird on a webinar, but humor me and we'll get to it. With your eyes closed, I'd like for you to visualize and imagine the most important person in your life. Could be your spouse, your son or daughter, could be a best friend, could be a significant other, could be a sibling. They mean so much to you. With your eyes closed, imagine what your life would be without them. You come home from school, mom's not there to make you dinner, give you some big lecture about not taking the garbage out. The reason she's not there, she made a choice. That choice cost her her life. And you grew up without a mom. With your eyes closed, while you think about the people that you care about most, I'd love if you would just listen to this. Laura, will you hit the first video, please?
I love you so much. Mairin, I'm right here. You're gonna be fine. The ambulance is here. Don't worry. They'll get you out and I'll take you home. I'm not leaving you.
Here, come on.
No, Mairin.
Please.
Her name is Nat. She's my sister.
Everything's gonna be fine. No, you can't go back in there.
Tell her she's gonna be fine. How's she breathing? Is she okay?
The reason I wanted you to just listen and not watch is I wanted you to hear what was being said. It's a traffic safety commercial from Canada where I grew up. You'll hear a Canadian accent today. I apologize in advance. Canadians apologize for everything, so I thought we would start there. Every word you just heard that actress say is word for word what I said. Mairin was my sister. I watched my sister, my best friend, die in a car. What the commercial won't tell you is Mairin was my big sister, my older sister. So she thought it was her God-given right to boss me around. Mairin was half an inch taller than me and all of 39 seconds older. But it made her the older twin, therefore the one with all the power. You see me standing up here, you see her. We were totally identical twins. Except for a tiny birthmark on my cheek. That was the only difference between Mairin and I. I loved being a twin and I'll always be one. But none of you and no one I meet from now on will ever have the chance to meet her. She died because she made a bad choice. Not like I haven't done that 1,000 times before, but I grew up believing it was never going to happen to me because it's always going to happen to somebody else. You know the saddest thing about that? I was right. It didn't happen to me. Instead, it happened to the most important person in my life and I watched her die. Growing up a twin is a ton of fun. There's some great stuff about being twins and some not so great stuff. Favorite day of the year was April Fool's Day. We would wear matching outfits to school, put band-aids on our cheeks to cover the birthmark and switch classes. We were good at it. We also liked playing tricks on people on the phone because we sounded alike, especially boys that would call the house in high school. My favorite was we loved to work at the same store together at the mall because I'm telling you, that'll creep customers out. One us would be at the front of the store, one us would be at the back of the store. They'd walk past Mairin first and walk past me and say things like, "Man, you're fast." There's two things about being a twin that sucks though, for any of the twins that might be watching. I think there might be one or two. We used to always have to answer to the same names or rhyming names because everyone thinks your names are supposed to rhyme or start with the same letter. And the second, you always get ripped off at Christmas and birthdays. Your aunts and grandparents think because you're twins, you like to share stuff. So they buy you one crappy gift and make you share it. Or they buy you the same gift, just a different color. Somehow that'll make you feel better. We were teased really badly in high school for being twins because we were different. I think today, different is really special. I don't want to be like everybody else. In high school though, all we ever wanted, and so many high school students want, is to fit in, was to be accepted, was to blend with our peers. I'm telling y'all, we didn't blend, no matter how hard we tried. Not only were we identical twins, we stood 6 feet tall a month before we turned 11. That'll help you blend with your peers. Now, it was also the 90s, and take a moment of silence for any coalition members on here that has survived high school in the 90s. My parents thought they would help their little girls blend by perming our hair, because everyone in the 90s had a perm. I had a perm and a mullet at the same time. How badly do you think we were teased? But you know what? No matter what people called me, at least I knew there was someone that was just like me going through the same thing. It made it okay. I was never alone. I can tell you the second my sister died, the second, half of me went with her. In turn, I have the half of her that's really strong and will stand here today, as weird as this feels, not being able to see everybody, and tell you all the things I'm going to tell you. Mairin died the day after our 18th birthday, the summer of our grad from high school. And every year since then, I celebrate, first of all, our birthday without her. The next day is the day she died. We're at the mall having job interviews at the Disney store. We were both hired at Disney that day. Mairin never worked for Disney. She didn't make it home. My sister died 3 blocks from the mall. See, her new boyfriend decided to come and pick her up from the mall New boyfriend, they'd been dating a week. He was older than us, drove a beautiful black shiny sports car, suspension tightened so he can turn corners faster, T-roof, radar detector, and he liked to drive fast. Who cares? He speeds. My boyfriend in high school sped all the time. So did my friends, so did my family, so did I. It was no big deal to watch my sister get in that car at 3:30 in the afternoon on a Monday, because it's never going to happen to us, right? We're supposed to be best friends forever. Mairin and her boyfriend sped by me a block from the mall, and I thought it was a joke. I called them a loser out the window and told them I would just meet them at home. I never met them at home. 3 blocks is all it took. Mairin's boyfriend lost control of his car. He lost control of his car on a city street in Vancouver in a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone, traveling in excess of 100 miles an hour, more than 3 times the posted speed limit. At over 100 miles an hour, he locked up his brakes, slid almost 200 feet down the hill he was driving, facing upwards, before he crossed the median and slammed into an oncoming car coming up the hill. The point of impact was Mairin's door handle. The car bent at a 90-degree angle to Mairin was sitting. What chance do you think my sister had? She was wearing her seatbelt. There were airbags in the car. At the end of the day, there's only one thing that would have saved my sister's life. It's the same one thing that would save the lives of teens across this country every day of the year. It's called a different choice. I watched them rip the car apart to get my sister out. I was the car behind them. There's nothing they could do for her. Mairin never made it out of the car. Police, firemen, paramedics' job next was to pick me up off the curb. I can't even imagine how creepy that was for them. Looking at the girl that just died in the car and looking at me. They stuck me in the back of an ambulance. They tied me down to a bed. At the time, I didn't understand. I didn't understand why I was being tied down. I wasn't in the car. They strapped me to that bed because they were about to tell me the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's something I hope every one of you never hears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry Carrie's sister didn't make it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to cut it? The reason I always try to get all my audiences to close their eyes and think of people they care about. I know this webinar is full of incredibly nice people. You wouldn't choose to be on a webinar like this. You didn't care so much for everyone you've ever met. I'm still not going to stand here today with my fake palm tree and expect y'all to care about us. God forbid, though, something happens to the person that you thought of when you closed your eyes, or for you overachievers on the call, the people you thought of because you couldn't just pick one, that's okay. But you hear 1,000 times over how sorry people are. Does it make you feel any better? It is never going to bring them back. But unfortunately, as a society, those are the only words we have left to say is how sorry we are. Sorry doesn't cut it. On August 29th, the summer we graduated high school, day after our birthday, my twin sister became a statistic. Do you know what the only thing Mairin went on to accomplish with her life after she graduated from high school is? Being a number on a piece of paper. That's the last accomplishment any of us want to see our friends, our peers, our students have. Behind every one of those numbers is a story just like this one.
Cara, we lost your webcam.
Oh no,
Oh,
I'm still looking at myself.
Nope, it's back. It came back.
Okay, perfect. Did we lose it for very long or is it okay?
Nope, it just blipped out for just a few seconds.
Out for a second? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry it doesn't cut it. We don't want them to be a number on a piece of paper. But there's nothing special about our story. Like, we're just a number on a piece of paper. The reason I'm part of this webinar series today is I want to talk about the choices you can make. I already know there's enough people in your lives as a team that tell you what you shouldn't do, can't do, don't do. I don't want to do that today. What I want to do today is offer you a buffet of choices you didn't know you had. Now I know I just used the word buffet, and usually that means a lot of snacks or food. This is a buffet of choices you didn't know you had. You already deal as a teen with the two most powerful drugs on the planet. It's called peer pressure, and testosterone makes us as high school students do some crazy stuff. Peer pressure is incredibly powerful, and we have to learn ways to speak up for ourselves and for those that we care about. We call it an accident. That's the part that fascinates me still. If you Google the definition of that word on your phone, it'll say something unpreventable, like stubbing your toe on a coffee table, tripping up a flight of stairs, falling off a stage, which unfortunately I've done more than once in front of large groups of people. That's an accident. When a plane crashes and tragically people die, we don't call it a plane accident. We lose more people in one day in car crashes in this country than we do year-round worldwide in plane crashes. And we still use the word accident because it helps us all accept the fact that it happens every day. So I have a question for you. I'm not gonna make it complicated. I know you didn't sign up for complicated tonight. My question to you is simple. If it happened to the person that you thought of when you closed your eyes, would you accept it? I don't. That's why I'm standing here. But by no means am I here to tell you a story. My story's over. It's not like my story or anything special. The reason sweet Laura invited me to be part of this webinar series is I want to talk about the choices you can make. I'm going to give you 4 today. Had Mairin chosen any of these 4 simple choices, she would not have died. I wouldn't be standing here because I'd be with her. My first presentation ever was definitely not virtual 25 years ago. I had a slide carousel and like played a song on a CD player. I don't even know if CD players even exist anymore. Like such a different experience. But I stood up in front of 100 people in my old high school. The presentation that day lasted all of about 15 minutes. And honestly, all I did for 15 minutes was like bawl my eyes out hysterically. Like that hyperventilating crying that makes no sense to anybody. That was me. But they walked up to me at the end of the presentation and told me how well I had done. Whether you remember this message long-term or not is not in question right now. The fact that I hope that you're there listening, taking it all in, is the only reason I'm still alive. When Mairin died, half of me went, and I saw no reason in being here without her. And as corny as this sounds, even though I can't see any of you, you're the reason I stayed. If one of you today gets something of value from this presentation, do you know what that means? Mairin didn't die for nothing. Johnny didn't die for nothing. That's what that means to us. But at my age now, I'll let you guess how old that really is. I'm feeling too old to tell you this story. My story's over. It's not why I'm here. I want to share with you today 4 choices that could have changed the story. Before I share with you those 4 choices, I would like to, if you allow me, share with you just a tiny video of pictures of us growing up. There are some pictures, though, I need to warn you about. There's a collection of really bad 90s pictures in here, some bad outfits and worse hairdos. If you start laughing at the photos, it's okay. I'm not offended. I thought I was Madonna for 6 months of my life. The pictures are horrendous and it's okay. I also had a permanent mullet. There's also a picture of Mairin's car crash in here. And I want to talk briefly after the pictures about the other victims involved, because there were other victims involved. Ultimately, the only reason we're recording this webinar, I'm going to share with you 4 choices. I'm going to walk away. I'll never know if you heard it. I'll never know if the smallest thing I say today or anyone has said on any of the webinars Laura has hosted makes a difference to any of you. Statistics only show people that are injured or killed. They don't show any of us who make the right choice first. As a passenger, as a driver, at a party, next weekend, during prom. Your crashes don't happen. You don't become a number on a piece of paper like Mairin did. The story isn't going to change that. But the choices you make for yourselves and your friends can and will. Laura, will you play the next video for me, please? Thank you.
Though I'm missing you, I'll find a way to get through. Living without you, 'cause you were my sister, my strength, and my pride. Only God may know why. me so fast. How could it be that our sweet memories would be all that we have left? And now that you're gone, every day I go on, but life's just not the same. I'm so empty inside, and my tears I can't hide. But I'll try to face the pain, though I'm missing you. I'll find a way to get through. Living without you, 'cause you were my sister, my strength, and my ground. Only God may know why. Still, I will get back. There were so many things.
That's all that was left of his car. He hit a Chrysler Fifth Avenue, which is about twice the size of the little car he was driving. And, oh, hold on one second. And there were two elderly ladies in the other vehicle. They spent the next 5 months of their lives in the hospital. The driver of the bigger car now has 13 pins holding her left leg together. Her leg shattered on impact. Mairin never made it out of the car, but her boyfriend did. I watched him crawl out the back hatch of his Nissan 300ZX without any help. He lost a tooth and broke his elbow. There's one word that describes why he walked away and Mairin didn't. It's the same word used to describe why I'm standing here, having often made the same choice as Mairin did. Luck. So many people bet their lives on luck, thinking bad stuff will never happen. I hope they're right. Mairin was wrong. Mairin's boyfriend was given a $150 speeding ticket at the scene of the crash for going more than 3 times the posted speed limit. A year and a half after Mairin died, he was finally charged with something in Canada called dangerous driving causing death. It would have been a very different charge in the United States. He was sentenced to a year in jail and 5 years without his license. He spent 15 days in jail. My sister's life was worth 15 days and $150. Each and every one of your lives are worth more than that. I was told by the court system how lucky I was, most of them never spending time in jail. Interesting choice of words. Mairin didn't see this destroy our family. My parents were married 22 years when Mairin died. They split up. They couldn't even stand being in the same room with each other. Almost 80% of families that lose a child in a separation or divorce. My parents were another statistic. And don't get me wrong, I love my parents. But I checked my mom into the hospital the second Christmas without Mairin because my mom wanted to not be here anymore. She wanted to be with Mairin. I have one sibling left, a younger sister. She's in a ton of those pictures. Her name's Bonnie. Bonnie's only 18 months younger than us. We passed as triplets growing up. God bless my parents. Bonnie was a junior when Mairin died. Bonnie dropped out of high school. Has never gone back to finish high school. When I lived in Canada still, Bonnie and I lived 15 minutes apart. We didn't even talk to each other. She wanted nothing to do with me. Why? I think it's because I'm a big, overprotective bag. I wear the badge proudly. My husband calls me Safety Spaz. I think he means it in a nice way. She doesn't make the best choices sometimes. If I ever have to stand up and deliver the eulogy of the only sibling I've left, I finally realized something. I can't make choices for anybody but me. I'm not here to make choices for you today. I'm not even here today to guarantee your safety. Man, I wish I could. I can't even guarantee my own. Do you know there's only 2 things that stop car crashes from happening every day? 2 things, that's it. Each driver's common sense and a white or yellow line, depending on what country you come from, this big. That's what we bet our lives on. When people decide to speed or drink and drive, smoke whatever it is they've decided to smoke and drive anyway, text message while they're driving, we throw common sense out the window. The only thing we bet our lives on is a white or yellow line this big and these 4 choices. Option number 1, choice number 1, so easy. We forget we have it. It's about not putting ourselves at risk like that in the first place. Now, I know as a teenager, if you're watching this, life without risk would be really boring. I'm not talking about hiding in your house under your blankets for the rest of your life because it's too risky to go outside. You need to take risks. That's how you learn. But there are risks in life you don't need to take, like getting into cars people drive like that. I know you get to a party, school, work, a sporting event. Be creative. There's always another way there. Now, I know you may not be a driver yet or have access to a vehicle, or you feel like you live in the world's smallest town and you don't have a lot of options. As true as those things may be, I've been to some tiny schools that don't have the choices you do. I spoke at a school where their entire school, kindergarten through senior class of high school, K to 12, was 28 people. Their whole senior class was one dude. Can you imagine the rock and grab party he had by himself? He doesn't have a lot of choices. You guys have tons. Find another way there. Walk, ride your bike, skateboard, take a bus, call your parents, crawl there. I don't care. Just don't put yourself in a car someone who drives like that. Option number 2, what if you already find yourself in a vehicle driven by someone who shouldn't be driving? Really simple. Get out of the car. Most important part of option number 2, please remember to make the car stop first. That's an important road safety decision. In order to make the car stop, you got to speak up yourselves. No one on the planet is a mind reader. They don't know what you want unless you tell them. Speak up yourself. At school, at home, with your friends. My sister didn't. That's why she's dead. Now, option number 2 is not only about speaking up for yourselves. It's about, and this is what this world needs right now more than anything, it's about sticking our neck out for our friends. Because some of our friends might not be as strong as you are. If you're ever at a party, not that that would ever happen in high school, but if you're there and someone's been drinking and they plan on driving somewhere, I don't care who they are, uncle, parent, friend, hide their car keys on them. My favorite place to hide car keys in the house, and I hope it becomes your favorite place as well, is the toilet. It's a great place to hide car keys. I'm not talking about the toilet bowl. That's disgusting. Little keys floating around. The tank on the wall, lift the tank lid, put all the keys in the tank, put the tank lid back down. But a word of caution, those clickers, automatic door clickers, automatic start clickers. Please remember, clickers are not waterproof. They don't float either. Stick them in Ziploc bags first before you throw the keys in the toilet, because if you don't, that'll be a nice, expensive learning opportunity for you. I had to replace 5 of them in one night at a party. Option number 3, we're at 3 now. Option number 3 is my favorite option, and I guarantee to you, as pathetic as this is what you'll remember our time for. Option number 3 is about lying to make sure you're safe. Any lie that you say that makes you safe is a good lie. So I don't like to use the word lie because lying sounds so evil. We don't lie in high school. No. We are masters of the fib. We fib about why our homework's not done, why we're late for school, where we really are on the weekends. These, however, are my favorite 3 fibs. I guarantee they will make the car stop immediately and let you out. They're called the 3 Ps for easy reference. P number 1. Tell the driver you have to pee. Don't just tell them, dance for them. Dance the famous pee dance. I'm sure you've used on occasion to get out of class. We don't really have to pee. If you don't know what the pee dance looks like, I usually dance at this point, which seems a tiny bit weird on a webinar, but I'm going to show off my dance skills. Just stay with me. I'm going to tilt this down just a little bit. Okay, ready? Hold your bladder lower than your belly button. Sitting in the passenger seat with your seatbelt on, put your knees together, cross them if you can, then you start to wiggle. Because the more wiggling you do, the more they believe you. Say in a really whiny, uncomfortable voice, but I have to pee so bad. There's no one in their right mind that wants you peeing on their passenger seat. They're gonna stop the car, they're gonna let you out. P number 2, they get better. Tell the driver you think you're gonna puke. Don't just tell them, show them. Hold your stomach, which is higher than your belly button. Lean forward while sitting with your seatbelt on, of course, and hold your breath. Also start drooling out the side of your mouth, because if they've ever had the flu before, they know the drooling stage comes just before the puking stage. Then say things like, I don't feel so well, I think I'm gonna puke. Don't laugh when you say that. Then you gag from, I don't care if it's a bus driver, a parent, sibling, they also don't want you puking in the car. They'll stop the vehicle and let you out. Third and final P happens to be my favorite P, because ladies, there's no man on the planet that wants to hear about you, period. It'll make them stop the car immediately and let you out. The reason I give girls an extra special weapon is 3 out of 4 car crashes in this country in under the age of 21 are caused by guys. Testosterone makes them do crazy things like show off, drive really fast, thinking that it can impress you. Ladies, you have to speak up yourselves. My sister didn't. That's why she's dead. Option number 4, the last option I have for you today, it's about picking up the phone and calling your parents. I love that, Laura, and you'll get this. We do this to signal a phone now, but if you ask a teenager what a phone looks like, it's this, because it's the iPhone or the Samsung. But we're like, call your parents. And people are like, what are you doing? And it's like aloha. No, this is a phone for all of us in the 80s and 90s. This is a phone now. Call your parents. There's no parent on the planet that wants to knock at the door, police officer at the door. I've had the privilege to work with law enforcement all over the world. People ask me all the time why I didn't become a cop. One reason. I don't want to be the one that stands at your door and tells your parents you're not coming home. Somebody tell my parents. That's their job. Had my sister chosen any of those 4 simple choices, these ones right here, she wouldn't have died. I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be with her. We were supposed to start college together on basketball scholarships 5 days after the crash. I didn't go without her. It's too hard for me. Let's be honest, at the time, getting out of bed was hard for me. After Mairin's boyfriend was sentenced, I finally got up enough courage to go back to school. By then, I was already doing 100 little presentations a year on my own time. I was a hot mess. I cried through all of them. I took 3 classes my first semester of college. To say that I was overwhelmed is an understatement. Look, I was a decent high school student. I was a terrible college student. I had a college professor in my first semester that said something to me that changed my life forever. He knew what I was doing on my own time, trying to save the planet because I couldn't save my sister. And he handed me back a test on a Monday morning with an F on it. It's my first F ever. I hadn't studied. I'd barely been in class all semester. And he paused just for a second and said, Cara, stop fighting fights you can't win. I was so upset by his comment. I played sports in Canada at a national level. I like to win. What I realized, life isn't about the fights that you can win, although winning feels really good. It is more importantly in life, you find a fight worth fighting for. I don't know what that fight's going to be for you in your lifetime, but I'm standing here today basically talking to myself because I found mine. All of your lives to me are a fight worth fighting for. Because while I stood here, 90 people just died in cars. People that you either met and will never see again, or will never have the opportunity to meet. How do you think that changes the world? We are never going to know. They aren't here to change it. I've done some tough presentations. A week after suicide, 4 days after a car wreck. But in all the years I've been speaking, the hardest presentation I've ever delivered was at Buchanan Upshur High School in West Virginia. They buried 4 girls in a car prom weekend. There were 5 girls in the car. The only survivor will never be the same again. She'll be cared for the rest of her life. Beginning of the next school year, so like 3.5 or 4 months after the crash, they asked me to come address their student body. Unlike this presentation, theirs should have proudly been sponsored by Kleenex. Everybody sobbed. Students, staff, speaker. I'm a bit of a crier. I had a senior boy walk up to me at the end of the presentation. He waited till everybody had left their auditorium. He probably waited 30 minutes or more to talk to me in private. He walks up to me, hi, my name's Josh. Hey Josh, I'm Cara, nice to meet you. Josh is a big dude, I'm guessing a football player. And he stood in front of me and he burst into tears. Josh was Anna's boyfriend. Anna died in the car. They had been dating since freshman year of high school. She should have been a senior that year. She wasn't there. Josh told me about his girlfriend and the other girls that died in the car. And he stood in front of me and he shook. And all I wanted to do was take his pain away. I couldn't. Josh was fidgeting with that bracelet on his wrist. You know, those rubber bracelets? Was the color of their school, white and blue. It said, in loving memory, the date of the crash, names of all 4 girls that died. He got to his funeral. He'd been wearing it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week since she passed away. and he took it off his wrist and he handed it to me. He wanted me to have it. Because something I said that day made him hurt a little less. Josh has a lot of guilt. This is the reason I'm telling you a story. Josh was at the same party the girls were at. So we're nearly 40 of their friends. Everybody at that party knew those girls should not have driven home. And nobody stopped them because they all believed it was going to happen to somebody else. Josh was right. Anna wasn't. Speed, alcohol, lack of seatbelts, the reason those girls never made it home. Now, I know sticking your neck out for each other in high school isn't easy. And I know for sure in high school, sticking your neck out for each other isn't always popular. But it's the right thing to do. There's not a student in that school that wants to live with the guilt Josh feels every day because he could have done more and he didn't. The reality is, I'm not going to know if you take this message to heart today. Your names will never be a number on a piece of paper. What does it look like for you? I know what I speak up for now, but look what I had to lose and look what Laura had to lose in order for us to make our voices loud enough to be heard. What and who will you speak up for in your life, in your communities, in your schools? How will you show people how much you care? I used to say before COVID, that I don't know if you notice this world's kind of a mess right now. Well, we all notice this world's kind of a mess right now. But your generation, the teens of today, when I look to your generation, all I see is hope. I hope my son has friends like you in high school, friends that'll have his back when it matters most. If we all speak up for each other and we show each other how much they mean to us, this world would not be in half the mess that it is right now. People ask me all the time, if I could change what happened, would I? I wouldn't. Because everything I've been through has led me to this moment. I have an amazing husband and a super handsome, I know I'm super biased, my kid could look like a troll, I wouldn't know the difference, incredibly giant 16-year-old son. I can't choose what happened to me. I can choose what happens next. And from that moment on, I can choose to find the silver lining in all of the things that are challenging in life. We've all been through a lot in the last couple years, and it is not the same boat. You see that going around in social media. We've not all been in the same boat or the same storm for that matter. But what we can choose to do is determine the destination we are aiming for. I love traffic safety analogies. It's what I live, breathe, eat, and sleep. This is about having a GPS. I can't even imagine using map books like I used to do back in the day to get to schools. GPS talks to me in my CarPlay in the car. Trying to find that without that now would be incredibly challenging. But GPS isn't just to find the destination in your car. A GPS is a game plan for success. What are you choosing every day to move yourself towards the destination you're hoping for? What are you choosing, and not letting other people choose for you? What are you choosing every day that gets you closer to your goals, your dreams, your vision, your destination? We can't change or choose what happened to us in the past, but we will choose. You can choose. I can choose what it means and what happens next. The biggest part of life, the outcome of your life is determined by the choices you make, the chances you take, controlled chances. Not all risk is the same. There's negative and positive risks, and the changes we make along the way when things don't work out the first time. It's not about failure. Everything is a learning opportunity. I was a big Disney fan. Mairin and I were being interviewed to work at Disney the day she died on the way home, and I was later employed by Disney. And there's a movie back in the maybe even late 70s, but I watched it in the 80s and 90s called Pollyanna. And it's about finding the things to be grateful for in the darkness, finding the things to be glad about even when life is hard. The last couple of years have been incredibly hard on people. But I have chosen, even in the darkest, when all the schools closed and all of us speakers thought our careers were over and we were going to have to choose to do something else, I chose to find the positive in the situations, to connect with more people, to connect with my family, to take care of my health, to find things that made me laugh or made other people laugh, to get creative again. We can choose to meet the challenges in our life with joy and gratitude. And it makes all of that hurt just a little less. There was a day before COVID, I was talking to Laura before this started, at how burnt out I felt by what we do and the amount of travel it takes to make sure that your message is heard all over the country. In fact, other countries too. And it's tiring. And every May I felt like I wanted to quit. And every September I loved what I did again. But the hardest part of prevention and the hardest part of sharing such a personal story of loss but hope is that we will never be able to quantify the ones that made the choices that kept them safe. Prevention as a whole usually only quantifies those that make a choice that risks their life or gets them injured in some way. So I never knew if it was really making a difference. The only way I ever did is if people shared that with me. They found me on social media, they sent me an email, they chose to come speak to me at the end of presentations and share their stories. I know I'm not the only one on this call that has a story. Post for funny Instagram pictures, shared their questions, which there's an opportunity to do here in the webinar as well. I only ever knew it made a difference as if people told me, here's all my contact details. This is how you find me. And the only Cara Filler in social media makes that super easy. Send me a message or a question, share your story. The way we get through the hard stuff is by reaching out to people. More Care Bears of the world should unite. The people that you are inspired by, the people that you hope will be inspired by your story. I'm incredibly moved by Laura and what she has done in the legacy and honor of her son. And this is the first time we've had a chance really to connect at such a different level. But as I started this out, we were never supposed to know each other in this way. We don't need any more statistics. We need the numbers in substance abuse fatalities, impaired driving, speeding, texting fatalities, especially around young people. We need that number to 0. The loss of opportunity in life is too great. I didn't want to cry, but I'm going to. There was a shooting in a Texas school today, and more kids are dead. We shouldn't be living in a world where that is a normal for any of us. We want you to have the opportunity, to the teens on the call, to one day sit at your home in your 80s or 90s and tell your great grandkids what it was like before flying cars and all the things that you're going to have. That's what we hope for you. I hope this presentation brought you a nugget. One thing that you can change or choose every day to make your choices count for yourselves or others. And I'm incredibly grateful that I had the opportunity to spend some time with all of you. I don't know if there's any questions, Laura, in the chat. I can't see anybody but myself, so I'm still not sure how this all works.
Yeah, can you see me now? Yes.
I can.
Okay, I'm here. We did have a few questions.
I see myself.
Oh, first of all, just thank you.
I know. Virtual hug, Laura. Oh, I'm squeezing you so hard.
You didn't cry, but I did. And
well, that's why I couldn't see you. So it's probably good because I'm an empathetic Care Bear crier. I would have been a mess.
We would both be crying, and then you'd be crying, and you wouldn't be able to talk, and you do one of those ugly sob things that it would be bad.
Yeah, like my makeup would just be running down my face.
Your story is so powerful, and I'm so grateful just that you are here with us. And we shouldn't be meeting this way, but you know, that is one of the interesting things, that I have just met most wonderful people just as a result of all this, and I'm sure that you have too, that we otherwise would not have met. So I just love you.
And we're also still standing, and that is an example of resilience through the worst and darkest days of our lives.
That's right.
We're still standing, and so many people can.
You could have, gotten into
Yeah.
a fetal position and stayed in bed, for
Yep.
years afterward, and you didn't. And then I'm trying to do the same. It's only been 2.5 years for me, but
It's
I'm
such
just
a,
trying every day. But
yeah,
I
such a
just,
short period of time and
yeah,
yet seems so long ago.
yes. And I just hope, for the same thing like you, that, and not everybody will come up and share, but some people
Nope.
do say, that something you said, has made a difference.
I spoke in Australia in the early 2000s before I was married, and I would speak there for 7 weeks a year, 2 schools a day. And just this Christmas, I got an email from someone who heard me as a high school student, who now has a teenage driver, who was like, I remember everything you said.
Wow.
I know, like goosebumps.
So
And now she has
impactful.
a
I'm like, woo! And you just never know.
Nope, we don't.
And it's not, I'm finding the teens that come up to me at the end and tell me something like the one who talked to you. It's the one who said something, there's probably 100 who didn't say something.
Right.
And,
Who just chose a different path.
Yeah.
Chose not to get into the car, chose to be the designated texter so the driver doesn't touch the phone. That's the reality. Our choices matter. Like, have a buddy sleep over your house. We know you shouldn't be driving. Ask mom or dad to slow down. Remind a friend to wear their seatbelt. Be the designated texter. Like, those little choices matter, but we won't know whose life they save.
Right.
So you and I are just one big giant thank you to the people whose lives were saved because somebody chose a better choice, like made a better choice because of something that they yeah, they'll never say thank you for it.
No, and they'll wonder where their keys are in a baggie in a toilet somewhere.
Yeah.
And why are my keys in a baggie in a toilet?
That shouldn't make you reevaluate your choices.
So what have you found with teens, especially ones whose friends are making a bad choice? It's so, the peer pressure is so difficult. And Johnny, went to a party when he was 14, there was marijuana there. Someone said, here, hit this. And he didn't know what to do and what to say and did.
Yep.
And then 5 years later, he was gone. And it started with that one choice. And so many things are, there's so many great kids and they make so many bad choices, but they're preventable. But
right.
There's how do teens get that self-efficacy, that confidence when they see a friend making a bad choice?
Right.
To say something to them, right? Because you're risking them saying, shut up and mind your own business, right. or something.
I have a lot of friends that, like, I have groups of friends that come up at the end that are like, I'm that friend. And I can tell by their energy. And I was like, and you get a hard time from your friends because you're always the mom energy, especially with girls. Like, you're the mom energy. You don't want anybody to make a bad choice. You're the mom. You're going to tell me what to do. And I was like, so here's what you need to know in those situations. You can inspire them. You can implore them. You can beg them to make better choices. You cannot make the choice for them.
Right.
You can limit the risk by offering other solutions. You still cannot make the choice for them. So in that situation, and we're in that world with Jackson now, and like, he's that age where he's being offered things. And I said, you can either own up to the choice that you do not want to participate in that and be brave enough in yourself. But a lot of students, especially after 2 years of being very remote and removed from each other, are really struggling to like find ways to like connect. So they almost don't know how to interact with each other anymore.
Yeah.
And then I said, blame me. Say you're allergic. I don't care how many times you lie to keep yourself safe, because then it's not a lie, it's a fib. If it's going to keep you safe, it's a fib. I was like, you tell them you're allergic, you tell them your mom would kill you, do you not know what she does for a living? Like, I was like, blame me. All the
I just say, tell them that your mom drug tests you. That'll get you out of it. And I said, I promise your mom will be like, absolutely, tell them I drug test you. Throw your parents under the bus. They do not care.
No, and it shouldn't be the norm. Unfortunately, it has a few years apart, and depending on the state that you're in, is obviously, I'm on the West Coast, and it has been, we didn't get masks off until a month ago. They were in masks for 2 years.
Wow.
So the distance we were remote learning for over a year, like 100% not going to school. So what I have found is they've kind of stalled in a way of, like, if they were middle schoolers when it started, they still react to situations as a middle schooler would react without all the life experience that high school would have brought them as a freshman.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're not aware of how quickly now they've gone from 8th graders to 10th graders, and all that stuff in between disappeared.
Wow.
So they're coming up with 10th grade challenges, drugs, parties, alcohol, as with an 8th grade skill set and experience.
Yeah.
I say skill set because some of them are like ready to tell them, like they're ready to take on the world and tell everybody how they feel. I wish every kid was like that. They are not.
No. And I always tell the teens, you know, the ones watching, you know, I have no idea what it's like being a teen today.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems in so many ways like it would be so much harder. I mean, we just didn't have all of the accessibility.
Can you even imagine?
Yeah, the phone, right?
The phone, girl.
We had to actually have a phone on a wall with a cord. Like, people can't envision
with
that.
A party line that you got booted off if you were on the phone for too long. They won't know the challenge.
My turn. Yeah, they don't. So, you know, I would never assume to know how difficult it is to be in your shoes. But I love your line about, you said how you don't ever think it's going to happen to you. And in my work in youth marijuana prevention, it's the same thing. They never think they're going to be the one who will become psychotic, or who will have an overdose, or who will, for heaven's sake, like Johnny, sadly die by suicide, thinking the mob was after him, you know. But that's the thing. Most of them know, they don't think it's going to happen to them. And you didn't either. But they all know someone that it did happen to.
Right.
You know, we had a young man in New Jersey sadly die by suicide. He had become psychotic from dabbing the really high potency marijuana concentrates and vaping. And his friend came up to me at the end of the seminar I did for their community, who, you know, they were just all reeling. Everybody knew him. And he was just in tears, and he said, I will never use marijuana again. He told me, because it wasn't him, you know, it was his friend, and he could see, you know, and in that moment you just wish, God, you know, I wish that it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have been me. But look at all the ways that you contribute, the ways you participate, the things that you didn't say, you know, hey, let's rip a pen in the bus on the way to school.
Right.
He participated in that. So even though you don't ever think it's going to happen to you,
right,
and it happens to someone else, how would different choices on your part have saved them? Not even necessarily yourself, because now he feels, you know, he lost his best friend, just like you lost your sister, and you can't ever get him back. And
there's nothing I can say, think, or do that will ever change the outcome of what your family's been through, what my family's been through. But what we can do is try to make it mean something to somebody.
Right.
Like that friend of the boy that you lost in New Jersey. It meant something to him.
He is telling everybody,
yeah,
do not use weed, do not use weed. I lost my best friend, you know, and I don't know, it maybe helps him feel better in a way. I think, you know, when you lose someone, there's always guilt. There's always, what if I would have done, I didn't do this, I should have done this. And we don't ever want to ask those questions.
So what if? Yeah.
Right. And we don't ever want to be in a position where we have to ask those questions. So even though it sucks and it's hard, you know, you have to open your mouth.
Yep.
And say something, even when you look like an idiot.
And having your voice be heard is what's going to make this world a better place. This world is a mess. But the generation that will speak up for each other, what they believe in, the inequalities in the world, the diversity, and there's so much that their voice, it doesn't have to be substance abuse, traffic safety, whatever their fight worth fighting for is, I want them to find it without the loss.
Yes. Yes.
Their voices need to be heard.
Well, and especially in a world where everything is different, you know, than it even was a couple years ago. And with things, I mean, you're from the West Coast in Washington, and you know, your world is vastly different now than it was a few years ago. I mean, in Colorado, you know, when we legalized marijuana, we had no idea that it was going to get as bad as it's going to get. And right now in Colorado, the number one cause of death is suicide in our young people, 10 through 19. And it didn't, you know, it didn't used to be that way. And
no, and we had an 80% increase in suicide rate under the age of 19 during COVID, 80% increase.
Whoa. Well, and people thinking it's going to help their stress, it's going to help their anxiety. And of course it does, it makes all those things worse. So what have you seen? And we'll close with this, since this is Johnny's Ambassadors. You mentioned about drinking and driving. You know, what have you seen with drugged driving? You know, some of the reports that we see, like the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, show that more teens believe today that marijuana is safer than drinking, you know. And so how do you communicate to them?
They've also been fed a line by really good marketing to have them believe that. Yeah. The whole vaping world and how easily accessible and how jewels and all that, like making it look sexy to have a vape pen full of weed, is not helping the cause. So over COVID, you'd think there'd be less fatalities because people weren't driving a lot. Right. But the increase almost doubled in some states. So less miles driven, more fatalities with drugs and alcohol.
Wow.
And you know, drugs and alcohol also typically involve speed or not seatbelt use. So it's not just one contributing factor, because usually it's not just one thing. So like my sister had her seatbelt on, but he did 3 times the speed limit. So a seatbelt at that point didn't matter for her, but it saved his life.
Well, and there's so many false perceptions about how, oh, it's safer. You know, I'm a better driver.
Marketing. We have a real issue with everyone believing marijuana is safer than alcohol. Neither is safe as a driver. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's a substance. It doesn't matter what substance you're using. You're not safe to get behind the wheel, you know, and we need to continue to do that. And just your whole message. I wish every school before prom would have to see you, and you know,
you like them?
Oh yeah. I will never forget pee, puke, period. Girl, that's so good. I mean, those are really good ways to get out of a car. I mean, talk about
assembly, I act out the whole period scene and the girls laugh so hard.
I bet the boys are just sitting there blushing like,
they're traumatized and usually staring at the floor.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, did we say that word?
Yep.
I wish we lived closer. We would just be great friends. And I already feel like we're great friends, but I feel so connected to you, and I'm so grateful and appreciative of your gift that you've given to all of the teens, to everybody watching, of your talent, your time, your story. But I think of just their choices, and you never know, maybe you have given someone their life back, or someone that they love today. So thank you so much.
Let's celebrate some good choices for a change. Hey, like, let's celebrate the good choices in life.
Amen. Right on, sister. All right. Thank you so much today. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time here on Johnny's Ambassadors. Take care. Bye. Thanks, Cara.